One would have thought the COVID was the most dangerous pandemic the world had ever encountered. It turns out that is not true. The virus of mediocrity has been far more potent with no vaccine and no processes to track, trace, test, and treat. In the case of the coronavirus, it was more severe on people with prior conditions of core-morbidity. In the case of mediocrity virus, it impacts the educated and privileged more. We are at a strategic inflection point on our planet. A path of progression can take us from innocence to excellence. But then again, a path of regression is a journey from ignorance to mediocrity. It is critical to figure out the status quo both at an individual and industry or institutional level. Are we contributing and therefore moving in the path of progression, or are we only consuming and therefore moving in the path of regression? The path of progression is a continuous journey that can be assessed on a 0 to 5 scale. 0, innocence, showing curiosity to the emerging challenges. 1, awareness, converting the curiosity to investigation. 2, understanding, converting the investigation to understanding the subject deeper and wider. 3, definition, being able to define the opportunity or problem with precision. 4, competence, creating the capability to execute. And 5, excellence, accomplishing the desired state within the defined scales of quality, cost, delivery, service, and flexibility. Excellence is directly proportional to the aspirations of the society. Not just the aspiration to consume, but also create new products and services that improve the quality of life and not just its convenience, where the shift of power is democratic. The path of regression can also be assessed on a negative 0 to 5 scale. 0, ignorance, ignoring the signals of alarm due to lack of sensitivity. -1, oblivious, consciously ignore the alarming signals around oneself. -2, indifference, don't see a need to move out of one's comfort zone. -3, limiting, not only oneself but also others around to seek alternatives to their perspectives. -4, incompetence, a lack of initiative shows up in the work produced. -5 is mediocrity, defending the outputs and perpetuating narratives without worrying about the consequences. Mediocrity is directly proportional to the protection of the status quo, and that is driven by a control of the structure or power that is the exact opposite of democracy. In the case of progression, we can uplift and transform the societies we live in. In the case of regression, as we witness now, the very fabric of our societies are being torn apart, and we are a part of it when we don't create our own capabilities to scale to a higher threshold. The mark of excellence is not moving from uncertainty to certainty. It actually is the opposite. Design thinking is a science enabling one to thrive in uncertain times, deriving the power of design from design thinking. Design thinking is guided by the 5 dimensions of value. 1, lifetime, that determines the quality delivered, making an impact on one's personal life with respect to improving the quality. 2, economic value, focusing on the cost or affordability without compromising on quality and being valuable to the life journey of the customer and consumer. 3, functional value, that determines the urgency or the right time to deliver a platform, product, process, and or service to a person's life. 4, emotional, the value of supporting customers, consumers with empathy through the process of education, ownership, and commitment in being able to use products and services with greater efficacy. 5. Brand being able to deliver at the rate of customer demand with trust and convenience sealed in. There is a dire need for abstracting the value of thinking on potential of creating platforms, products, processes, and projects mutually inclusively and bringing it with designing the implementation that can measurably deliver performance. The former creates the key performance indicators while the latter delivers the performance to match the KPIs. It is not enough to stress, therefore, that KPIs are consumer aspirations while performance measures are expectations. The lack of such direct correlation can be easily inferred to how deep the virus has penetrated in our societies. There are hardly any offerings in the marketplace that truly contribute to one's growth, whether it is an industry or an individual. At Giggr Technologies, we believe the vaccine for the virus of mediocrity is design thinking. And yes, this has to be administered on every single person, whether they are infected with the virus or not. And this has a new molecular formula to reverse the growth of consumption to the growth of contribution. There isn't a single person on this planet that doesn't want to consume the best of everything. We need to connect that consumption with the creation of the best of everything as well. Every single individual on the planet is a born design thinker. But gradually, as we grow in age, we lose this ability. Ever wonder what we lose and why? What we lose is the curiosity because we believe we know everything there is to know or pretend. And this knowledge that earns us our living and income is sufficient to take us through life. In essence, we lose the ability to take risks as there is a crescendo of expectations as to how life should turn out. And we consume that both from those who we love and those that control power. Essentially, the educated and the privileged willingly surrender the power of making the right decisions in one's life. The poor and the underprivileged never get even the false sense of freedom. But times are changing and there is a growing restlessness in Gen A aged 8 to 18 and Gen Z aged 18 to 25 who see life very differently than the past generations. They want to be their own masters of their fate and rebel against being dictated upon. They also have a fascination with creation and need guidance and support to channel their energies. They need societal systems to aspire and soar, and therefore the generations of Gen Y aged 25 to 40, Gen X aged 40 to 60, and baby boomers aged 60 plus to become involved and immersed in working with this new generation, enabling the creation process rather than the passive consumption process. The topic of design thinking has run its course so far on a completely wrong narrative and approach. Many institutions and universities have cashed in on the concept of design dished out as design thinking. And here are the problems as a consequence. 1. Design thinking is powered by abstraction, whereas design is by detail. We find ourselves cornered in every walk of life, caught indebted and unable to move forward with the desired speed and agility. 2. Design thinking is driven by curiosity, while design by creativity. We have therefore become experts at finding shortcuts and depending on marketing and sales for growth that spin detrimental narratives with impunity. 3. Design thinking empowers the journey of innovation, while design the journey of commercialization. This contradiction has greatly altered the understanding and creation of value in our societies. What is, however, a negative impact and a devastating trend is the inability to learn and create recursive action for the better. The emphasis is on repetitive automation that sets undesirable precedents that is hard to erase from the memory of living mechanisms in our societies. Giggr Technologies is announcing a digital documentary, Design Thinking, a New Era, for changing this narrative. 1. Create practitioners who are certified through the right processes. 2. Advance the creation of solutions with intellectual property rights vested with the creators. 3. Create new class of entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs and solopreneurs who will bring about social justice, increased rate of innovation and a sustainable platform, products, processes and projects to life in our societies. Stay tuned for further announcements in the next couple of weeks. Those who are impacted by this episode may write to fow@giggr.app to get advanced and personalized information on the developments. Looking forward to your continued involvement and another episode on hashtags Tuesdays at 5. See you next week.